The engine of the white Lexus SUV clicked as it cooled a rhythmic ticking that sounded like a bomb counting down in the silence of the garage. Sarah sat in the driver's seat, her hand still gripping the wheel at 10 and 2. The knuckles were white. The dashboard clock read 5:47 p.m. Inside the house, the perfect colonial-style home in the affluent suburbs of Connecticut dinner needed to be started. The kids needed their homework checked. Mark would be home in 13 minutes. But Sarah couldn't move. This was her daily ritual, the driveway decompression. It was the only time she owned. No screaming toddlers, no passive-aggressive texts from her mother-in-law, no demands, just the smell of heated leather and the hum of the garage door opener. She adjusted the rearview mirror, checking her reflection. At 34, she still looked like the woman Mark had won 10 years ago. Blonde highlights perfectly maintained, despite the credit card debt skin smooth thanks to a neurotic skincare routine, and eyes that looked hollow. High-functioning anxiety had a look, and it was exhaustion masked by concealer. "Get it together, Sarah," she whispered. "It's just Tuesday. Don't be dramatic." She grabbed the Whole Foods bags from the passenger seat. Organic kale, grass-fed beef, gluten-free pasta. The ingredients of a good mother. As she stepped out, her phone buzzed. A notification from Credit Karma. Credit score alert, your score has dropped. Current score 585. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. 585. That wasn't just bad. In America, that was social leprosy. That was, you can't rent an apartment, you can't buy a car, you are financially paralyzed territory. She tapped the app with shaking fingers. New inquiry online gambling site. High utilization on joint Amex. Mark. She swallowed the bile rising in her throat. He had promised. After the last blowout, after she found out he'd lost 10 grand on sports betting, he had sworn on their children's lives. It was a mistake, babe. I'm handling it. You worry too much. You're being hysterical. Hysterical. The favorite word of a narcissist. She walked into the house. The mudroom was cluttered with lacrosse sticks and designer backpacks. The open concept kitchen, the one she had pinned on Pinterest for years before they bought this money pit, gleamed under the recessed lighting. It felt like a stage set, and she was the prop. "Mom, is that you, Leo?" Her 8-year-old didn't look up from his iPad at the kitchen island. "Hey, buddy," Sarah forced her voice into that cheerful, high-pitched octave that suburban moms use to mask their internal screaming. "Did you finish your math? Dad said I didn't have to if I didn't want to. He said school is for people who don't know how to hustle." Sarah paused a bag of frozen peas in her hand. Parental alienation. Subtle, but there. Undermining her authority to be the cool parent. "Well, Dad isn't here, and in this house we do math." She tried to sound firm, but she just sounded tired. The front door slammed. The air pressure in the house changed immediately. It was a physical shift, a sudden heaviness. The king had returned. Mark walked in, looking like $1 million in a tailored suit that cost more than Sarah's first car. He had that charisma, that dazzling energy that sucked the air out of the room. This was the man everyone loved, the life of the party. "Honey, I'm home," he announced, theatrical. He walked over to Leo, high-fiving him. "What's up, champ? You ready for the game tonight?" Then he turned to Sarah. The smile didn't reach his eyes. It never did anymore. It was a shark's smile. "What's for dinner?" he asked, eyeing the grocery bags. "Please tell me it's not that vegan garbage again. I worked 12 hours today. I need protein, Sarah. Real food." "It's steak," Sarah said, keeping her back to him as she washed the kale. She could feel his eyes on her, scanning, judging. "You're wearing that." She looked down at her yoga pants and oversized sweater. "I just got back from running errands. I was going to change. We have the Johnsons coming over for drinks at 7. Did you forget?" She had forgotten. Or maybe he never told her. It was a common game. Gaslighting 101. Set her up to fail, then act disappointed when she did. "You didn't tell me," she said quietly. "I told you yesterday morning." Mark lied smoothly, opening the fridge and grabbing a beer. "You really need to get your head checked, Sarah. Your memory is shot. Maybe it's early onset something. My mom was saying you looked scatterbrained lately. Triangulation. Bringing his mother into it." "Mark." She turned, clutching the counter. "I got a notification. The credit score. It dropped to 585. The room went silent. The hum of the refrigerator seemed to get louder. Mark took a long sip of his beer, his eyes narrowing. "Here we go," he sighed, rolling his eyes. "Can I have 5 minutes of peace? I bust my ass all day to pay for this house, for your car, for your little organic hobbies, and I walk into an interrogation. It's not an interrogation. It's a gambling site, Mark, you promised." He slammed the beer bottle onto the granite island. The sound cracked like a whip. Leo flinched but didn't look up. "It's an investment, Sarah. You wouldn't understand because you've never made a dollar in your life since we got married. You sit here in this luxury I provide and you judge me. That's rich. I manage the house. I raise the kids. You spend money? He cut her off, his voice low, dangerous. You spend. I earn. That's the dynamic. If you want to control the finances, go get a job. Oh, wait, you can't. Because you have a gap in your resume, the size of the Grand Canyon. Who would hire you? You're a 40-year-old housewife with no skills. The words hit her like physical blows, not because they were cruel, but because they echoed her own deepest insecurities. Imposter syndrome. He knew exactly where to stab. I'm 34, she whispered. You look 40, he muttered, walking out of the kitchen. Go change. Put on the red dress. And for God's sake, put on some makeup. You look like a ghost. Sarah stood alone in the kitchen. Her hands were shaking so hard she dropped the kale. It scattered across the floor, green confetti on the pristine white tile. She sank to her knees to pick it up. This was the cycle. The tension building, the explosion, the blame shifting, and then the silence. Later that night, the Johnsons arrived. Mark was charming. He poured expensive wine paid for with debt, told funny stories, and held Sarah's hand affectionately. Sarah is the rock of this family, he told them, clinking his glass against hers. I don't know what I'd do without her. The guests smiled, envious of their perfect life. Look at them, their eyes said. The perfect couple. Sarah smiled back. Her facial muscles hurt from the effort. Under the table, her fingernails dug into her palm until she broke the skin. She felt like she was drowning in plain sight. She went to the bathroom halfway through the night, locking the door. She turned on the faucet to mask the sound. She didn't cry. She was past crying. She looked at herself in the mirror. I have to leave. The thoughts surfaced clear and terrifying, but then the fear washed over her. Leave with what money? With a 585 credit score. With no job, he would destroy her in court. He would take the kids. He had the best lawyers. She had a grocery bag of kale. Her phone buzzed again. A text from her mother-in-law. Mark tells me you're stressing him out about money again. A good wife supports her husband's vision, Sarah. Don't be a burden. See you Sunday. Sarah stared at the screen. She felt a crack inside her chest. Not a break, but a fissure. A tiny structural failure in the dam of her endurance. She turned off the water. She fixed her lipstick. She put the mask back on. But as she walked back out to the living room, hearing Mark's loud laughter, something had shifted. She wasn't just sad anymore. She was cold. A deep, freezing cold that settled in her bones. She looked at Mark not with love, not with fear, but with clarity. He wasn't her partner. He was her warden. And this house wasn't a home. It was a gilded cage. One day she thought, watching him pour another glass of wine, one day I'm going to burn this cage down. She sat down, took a sip of wine, and smiled. So Mark, she said, her voice steady, interrupting his story. Tell everyone about your new investment strategy. Mark's eyes snapped to hers, a flicker of warning. For the first time in 10 years, Sarah didn't look away. Silence is a weapon. In the lexicon of domestic warfare, it is more effective than screaming. The morning after the dinner party, the house was submerged in it. Mark was engaging in stonewalling the punitive refusal to communicate. It was his favorite punishment. He moved around the kitchen like Sarah was invisible, a ghost haunting her own life. He poured coffee only for himself. He kissed Leo goodbye, ruffling his hair with exaggerated affection, and walked past Sarah without a glance, the door clicking shut with finality. Sarah stood by the granite island, the smell of his expensive cologne lingering in the air. Her chest felt tight, a physical constriction. Cognitive dissonance kicked in. Part of her wanted to chase him to apologize for the scene she caused last night, just to break the tension, just to get him to look at her again. Don't she told herself, gripping the edge of the counter. You didn't do anything wrong, but the doubt was a parasite. It burrowed deep. Her schedule for the day was typical for a suburban mom. Drop off Leo gym to maintain the trophy wife figure, grocery shopping pickup, dry cleaning prep dinner. A hamster wheel of unpaid labor. At 10:00 a.m., she pulled into the CVS pharmacy drive-thru. Leo needed his albuterol inhaler refill. The autumn allergy season in Connecticut was brutal, and she could hear the wheeze in his chest last night. That'll be $45 for the copay, Mrs. Bennett. The pharmacist's voice crackled through the speaker. Sarah handed over the Joint Chase Sapphire card. She stared at the brick wall of the pharmacy, waiting. The silence stretched. Then the voice came back, devoid of emotion. I'm sorry the card was declined. Sarah's stomach dropped. It felt like the elevator cable had snapped. That's impossible. Try it again, please. It's a chip issue. I tried twice. It says, do not honor. Do you have another form of payment? Cars were lining up behind her. A honk blared, short, aggressive. the universal sound of American impatience. Sarah fumbled in her purse, her hands trembling. She pulled out her emergency debit card, the one linked to the household checking account where Mark deposited the grocery money. "Try this one." A pause. Insufficient funds. The shame was hot and prickly, crawling up her neck. She was driving a $60,000 Lexus, wearing Lululemon leggings, and she couldn't buy her son's asthma medicine. I'll have to come back," she stammered, putting the car in gear. She sped out of the parking lot, tears blurring her vision, narrowly missing a delivery truck. She pulled into a deserted corner of a Target parking lot, the modern woman's sanctuary for breakdowns. She opened her banking app. Balance 4.12. Pending transactions. DraftKings online betting, 4.12. Pending transactions. DraftKings online betting, 4.12. Pending transactions. DraftKings online betting, 500 or DraftKings, 1-200 war DraftKings, 1-200 war DraftKings, 1-200 lu DraftKings, 800 Hausers. He had drained it. He had drained everything while she slept. She dialed Mark, straight to voicemail. She dialed again. Voicemail. She sat there trapped in the leather seat. This was financial infidelity. It wasn't just irresponsibility. It was a deliberate act of sabotage. He knew she needed to buy food. He knew Leo needed medicine. He didn't care. The phone rang. Sarah snatched it up, desperate. "Mark, you drained the Sarah, darling. It's Dolores." Sarah froze. Her mother-in-law, the matriarch, a woman who wore Chanel suits and wielded passive aggression like a scalpel. "Oh, hi, Dolores." Sarah wiped her eyes, forcing her voice to steady. "Is everything okay? I should be asking you that," Dolores purred. "Mark called me. He sounds devastated, Sarah. Simply devastated. He told me about your outburst at dinner. Embarrassing him in front of the Johnsons, really after everything that man does for you. Dolores, he gambled away our money. My card just got declined at the pharmacy. Leo needs his inhaler. Stop being so dramatic," Dolores snapped. The veneer of kindness vanished. Mark makes the money, he can spend it how he likes. Maybe if you weren't such a financial burden, he wouldn't need an outlet to blow off steam. Men have needs, Sarah, stress relief. You should be grateful he's gambling and not sleeping with his secretary. Gaslighting by proxy. The enabler, protecting the abuser. "I can't talk right now," Sarah said and hung up. It was the first time she had ever hung up on Dolores. Her hand shook so hard she dropped the phone between the seats. At 2:00 p.m., Sarah sat in the waiting room of Dr. Evans. This was her secret. Mark didn't know she was seeing a therapist. He would call it a waste of money or worse, accuse her of airing their dirty laundry. She paid for these sessions by selling her old designer handbags on Poshmark. Dr. Evans was a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. He drained the account again, Sarah said, staring at the beige carpet. She didn't cry. She was too exhausted to cry. "And how did you react?" Dr. Evans asked. "I panicked. I feel stupid. I feel like I should have known. I should have hidden money." Sarah, Dr. Evans leaned forward. "You are not stupid. You are in a cycle of intermittent reinforcement. Mark is kind, then cruel. Responsible, then reckless. It keeps you off balance so you can't think straight. But we need to call this what it is. A gambling problem, no. It is domestic abuse." The word hung in the air. Abuse. Sarah recoiled from it. Abuse was bruises. Abuse was police cars. Abuse wasn't a declined credit card in a Target parking lot. "He doesn't hit me." Sarah whispered the standard defense of the suburban victim. "He hits you with poverty. He hits you with unpredictability. He endangers your child's health by withholding funds for medication. That is violence, Sarah." Dr. Evans handed her a tissue. "We need a safety plan. Do you have access to important documents? Passports, birth certificates, tax returns? I think so. They're in the safe in his office. Tonight," Dr. Evans said, her voice grave, "when he's asleep, I want you to make copies. Digital copies. Send them to a cloud account he doesn't know about. Can you do that? Why, you think he'd leave me?" I think Dr. Evans adjusted her glasses that when a narcissist loses control of his image as he did at the dinner party, he punishes the whistleblower. You need to protect yourself. That evening, the house was quiet. Mark had come home late, smelling of whiskey, and passed out on the sofa without saying a word. The silent treatment continued, but now it was fueled by alcohol. Sarah crept downstairs at 2:03 a.m. The house made settling noises, groaning in the wind. She felt like a burglar in her own home. She entered Mark's home office. It was a shrine to his ego, framed awards photos of him shaking hands with local politicians. The air smelled of stale cedar and secrets. She opened the wall safe. She knew the combination 0825, his birthday. Of course. She pulled out the stack of papers, passports, Leo's birth certificate, the deed to the house. And then she saw it. A thick envelope at the bottom stamped with red ink. Notice of default, foreclosure warning. Sarah's breath hitched. She opened it. The letters danced before her eyes. 3 months behind on mortgage payments. Bank intends to initiate foreclosure proceedings within 30 days. 3 months. But she saw him pay the bills. She saw him sit at this very desk logging into the accounts. Unless he was showing her a fake screen or moving money around to cover the tracks. She flipped through more papers. Credit card statements she had never seen. Discover. Amex Platinum, all maxed out. Cash advances. The reality hit her with the force of a physical blow. They weren't just struggling, they were destitute. The house, the cars, the lifestyle, it was all a hologram. It was built on debt and lies. She looked around the dark office. The mahogany desk, the leather chair, it all looked sinister now. Suddenly, the floorboard creaked in the hallway. Sarah froze. Her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. Sarah Mark's voice. Slurred, heavy, and close. She shoved the papers back into the safe, but the heavy metal door clicked too loudly as she pushed it shut. Mark stood in the doorway. He was silhouetted by the moonlight streaming from the hall. He wasn't the polished executive now. His shirt was unbuttoned, his eyes red-rimmed and dark. He looked like a stranger, a dangerous stranger. "What are you doing in here?" he asked. The silence was gone. The menace was back. Sarah stood up her back against the cold wall of the safe. She had the foreclosure notice crumpled in her hand behind her back. She had to lie. Her life, or at least her safety for tonight, depended on her acting skills. I was looking for a stamp, she managed to say, for a permission slip for Leo. Mark took a step into the room. He didn't believe her. In the safe, he asked softly, "You were looking for a stamp in the safe." He took another step. He was 3 feet away. Sarah could smell the whiskey on his breath. "Give me what's in your hand, Sarah." She gripped the paper tighter. If she gave it to him, he would know she knew. If she didn't, he might force it from her. This was the moment Dr. Evans had warned her about. The mask had slipped completely. "It's nothing," she said, her voice trembling but defiant. Mark lunged. Mark didn't hit her, not in the way a chaotic drunk at a bar would. He grabbed her wrist. His grip was precise, surgical. He squeezed just hard enough to grind the bones together, a controlled infliction of pain, designed to silence, not to bruise. "Give it to me." Sarah gasped, her fingers losing sensation. The crumpled foreclosure notice fell from her hand, fluttering to the Persian rug like a white flag of surrender. Mark released her instantly. He smoothed his suit jacket, the mask of the civilized man sliding back into place. He bent down, picked up the paper, and read it. His face didn't show shame. It showed annoyance, like he had found a smudge on his car window. "You were snooping," he said. His voice was calm, terrifyingly reasonable. "I violate my privacy. I work myself to the bone to keep this roof over your head, and this is how you repay me, by breaking into my safe." "We're losing the house, Mark." Sarah found her voice, though it shook. 3 months. Where did the money go? "It's a cash flow issue, Sarah. You wouldn't understand complex liquidity problems." He crumpled the paper and tossed it into the trash can. "I have it under control. I'm meeting with a private lender tomorrow, but now I can't trust you. You've ruined the trust in this marriage. Darvo. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender." Sarah stared at him. The room spun. He was blaming her for discovering his bankruptcy. "You're sick," she whispered. Mark laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "And you're pathetic. You have nowhere to go, Sarah. You have no money. You have no credit. You are merely a guest in my life. Don't forget that." He walked past her, brushing her shoulder. "Go to sleep. And if you tell anyone about this, my mother, your friends, anyone, I will make sure you never see Leo again. I'll paint you as unstable. And with your history of anxiety meds, the judge will believe me." He left the room. Sarah stood alone in the dark office. The threat hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. "I will make sure you never see Leo again." That was the switch. That was the moment the fear died, replaced by a cold, reptilian survival instinct. The next morning, the sun rose over the manicured lawns of the suburbs as if nothing had happened. The sprinklers hissed. The birds sang. Mark left for work at 7:00 a.m. He didn't say goodbye. He simply took the keys to the Lexus Sarah's car. "I'm taking the SUV today," he said, pocketing the keys. "My sedan needs a service. You're staying home anyway, right? You have nowhere to be." It was a power move, immobilizing her, trapping her in the house. Sarah watched him drive away. As soon as his taillights disappeared around the cul-de-sac, she moved. She didn't pack suitcases. Suitcases looked like leaving. Suitcases sparked questions from neighbors. She grabbed black trash bags. "Mom, what are you doing?" Leo was standing in the hallway, clutching his iPad. He looked small. his eyes wide. He sensed the energy shift. Children always know. They are emotional seismographs. Sarah knelt down, gripping his shoulders. Leo, listen to me. We're going on an adventure, a secret mission. Like a spy mission. Exactly. But we have to be fast. Go get your backpack. Put in your favorite Lego, set your charger, and 3 pairs of underwear. Do not take the iPad. The iPad has a tracker. But no iPad, Leo, go. Her voice was too sharp. Leo flinched, then ran to his room. Sarah ran to the bedroom. She emptied her jewelry box. The diamond studs Mark gave her for their 10th anniversary, probably bought on credit. The Tiffany necklace. And finally, she looked at her left hand. The 2-carat engagement ring. It felt heavy. It felt like a shackle. She slid it off. There was a pale band of skin underneath, raw and exposed. She threw it into her purse. She raided the change jar in the laundry room. $42.50 in quarters and crumpled bills. That was her liquid net worth. She called an Uber. She couldn't use the Lexus anyway. Where to? The driver asked, eyeing the trash bags and the crying boy in the back seat. Sarah looked at the house one last time. The grand colonial facade, the pillars, the live, laugh, love wreath on the door. It looked like a mausoleum. Main Street, she said. The pawn shop. Gold and silver exchange smelled of stale cigarettes and desperation. It was a place where dreams went to die for 10 cents on the dollar. The man behind the counter had grease under his fingernails and eyes that had seen every tragedy in the city. Sarah placed the ring on the glass counter. Her hand was trembling. Nice rock. The man grunted. He put a loop to his eye. Princess cut. Good clarity, but the setting is scratched. How much? Sarah asked. She needed fast cash. Untraceable cash. I can give you $2,000. It's insured for 12, Sarah protested. We bought it for 15. The man shrugged. That's retail, lady. I'm buying the stone. You want retail, go sell it on eBay and wait 3 weeks. You want cash today? Sarah looked at Leo, who was sitting on a dusty amp in the corner looking at a display of pocket knives. He looked terrified. $2,000, she whispered. Fine. He counted out the bills. $100 bills. Dirty used money. Sarah took it. It felt more real than any platinum credit card she had ever held. This was freedom money. This was FU money. She walked out of the shop, gripping Leo's hand. Mom, I'm hungry, Leo whined. Can we go home now? I forgot my inhaler. Sarah froze on the sidewalk. The inhaler. She had forgotten it in the bathroom cabinet in her rush. We can't go home, baby. Why Dad is going to be mad if we're not there for dinner? Dad isn't going to find us for a while. She saw a Walgreens across the street. She would have to pay out of pocket for a new inhaler. That was $300 gone. The sun began to set, casting long, bruised shadows across the city. Sarah didn't check into the Marriott. Mark would check the credit card statements, or his friends might see her. She found a motel on the edge of town near the highway, the kind of place with neon signs that buzzed and flickered, the Starlight Motor Inn, $59 a night. Cash only, no questions asked. Room 104 smelled of industrial cleaner and old carpet. There was one bed. The sheets were thin and pilled. Sarah locked the door. She engaged the deadbolt. She put a chair under the handle. She sat on the edge of the sagging mattress. Leo was curled up in the corner, refusing to look at her. He was angry. He missed his room. He missed his dad. I hate this place, Leo muttered. It smells like pee. Dad would never make us stay here. Sarah felt a stab of guilt so sharp it nearly doubled her over. The smear campaign has already started in his head, she thought. I am the villain who took him from his castle. She opened the bag of fast food she had bought, greasy burgers and fries. Not organic, not grass-fed, just calories. Eat, Leo. She went into the tiny bathroom. The fluorescent light hummed flickering green. She looked in the mirror. The perfect mom was gone. Her hair was messy, her mascara smeared. She took out the burner phone she had bought at 7-Eleven. She put in the battery. She dialed the only number she could think of, her sister Emily. They hadn't spoken in 2 years because Mark had convinced Sarah that Emily was jealous of their success. Hello, Emily's voice, wary. Em. Sarah choked out. It's me. Sarah, is everything okay? Why are you calling from this number? I left him. I'm at a motel. I have nothing, Em, just cash from my ring. Silence on the other end. Then a sigh. A long, exhaling sigh. Finally, Emily said. Where are you? I'm coming. No, Sarah whispered urgently. He'll track you. He's dangerous, Em. I just needed to hear a voice. I just needed to know I'm not crazy. You're not crazy, Sarah. You're awake. Listen to me. Do not turn on your old phone. Do not log into your email. Disappear. Stay ghost. I'm scared. Sarah admitted, sliding down the bathroom wall until she hit the cold tile floor. "I'm in a roach motel and my son hates me." "He'll hate you for a while," Emily said, her voice hard but loving. "But you're saving his life. You're breaking the cycle. Tonight is going to be the longest night of your life. But you're free. Do you hear me? You are free." Sarah hung up. She walked back into the room. Leo had fallen asleep, still wearing his shoes, clutching a half-eaten fry. Sarah lay down beside him, fully clothed. She listened to the sound of trucks rumbling on the highway outside. It was loud. It was gritty. It was the sound of the real world. Her phone. The old iPhone was in the trash can at the pawn shop, turned off. But somewhere in that big empty house, Mark was coming home. He was finding the empty jewelry box. He was finding the closet void of clothes. The rage would be coming. But for the first time in 10 years, Sarah wasn't there to receive it. She closed her eyes. She didn't pray for money. She prayed for the strength to be hated. Because the only way to win a war with a narcissist is to stop fighting and start leaving. Day 3 in the motel felt like waking up inside a dirty lung. The air was thick with the smell of stale tobacco and industrial carpet cleaner. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, counting the cash again. She had done this 5 times in the last hour. $420. That was it. That was the barrier between them and the homeless shelter. Yesterday she had spent $80 on food convenience store. Prices were criminal, $40 on a burner phone plan, and she had prepaid for 3 more nights at the motel. The burn rate was too high. Leo was still asleep, his face buried in the scratchy motel pillow. In his sleep, he looked like her baby. Awake, he was becoming a stranger. She opened the laptop she had managed to shove into the trash bag at the last minute. It was an old MacBook Slow and filled with photos of their happy life. She ignored the photos. She opened Indeed, LinkedIn, and Craigslist. It was time to find a job. The interview was at 10:00 a.m. at a staffing agency downtown. Sarah wore the only suit she had brought, a black Hugo Boss blazer that cost more than the receptionist's car. It was wrinkled from the trash bag. She tried to steam it in the motel bathroom with the shower running hot, but the creases remained. A metaphor for her life, the quality was there, but the presentation was ruined. She left Leo in the motel room with the door double locked and strict instructions. Do not open the door for anyone, not even room service. Watch cartoons, eat the Pop-Tarts. I'll be back in 2 hours. Leaving an 8-year-old alone in a motel was negligent. It was the kind of thing Mark would use in court to strip her of custody, but she had no choice. Daycare cost money. Sitters cost money. Poverty didn't offer choices. It offered ultimatums. The recruiter was a girl named Brittany. She looked about 22 with perfect acrylic nails and a vocal fry that grated on Sarah's nerves. She held Sarah's resume like it was a used tissue. So Brittany said, popping her gum, "There's a gap here. From 2014 to present. That's 10 years. I was raising my family," Sarah said, sitting up straighter. "I managed a household. I organized schedules, managed budgets, handled logistics." Brittany smiled, a condescending, pitying tilt of the lips. "Right, a stay-at-home mom. That's sweet. But our clients are looking for hard skills. Salesforce, Python, Advanced Excel." "I can learn," Sarah said, desperation leaking into her voice. "I have a degree in marketing from NYU. From 2012, Brittany pointed out. "Marketing has changed, Sarah. It's all digital algorithms now. SEO, TikTok trends. Do you know how to run a Facebook ad campaign?" "No, but look." Brittany sighed, tossing the resume onto the desk. "I can't put you in a corporate role. You're rusty. And honestly, you're overqualified for entry-level but underskilled for management. You're in the unemployable valley." The unemployable valley. The term hit Sarah in the chest. "I'll take anything," Sarah whispered. "Receptionist, filing, anything." "We have a spot at a call center," Brittany said, typing on her keyboard. "Customer service for a cable company. It's high stress, $12 an hour, but you need a quiet home office and a landline." A quiet home office. Sarah thought of the motel room next to the highway with the flickering neon light. I can't do that right now." Brittany shrugged. "Then I don't know what to tell you. Maybe try retail. They're always hiring for the holidays, but you'll be on your feet all day." Sarah walked out of the agency. The sunlight was blinding. She felt naked. For 10 years, she had been Mrs. Mark Bennett. She commanded respect at PTA meetings. Waiters rushed to fill her wine glass. Now she was just a middle-aged woman with a wrinkly suit and no skills. He was right, the voice in her head, Mark's voice whispered. "You are nothing without me." She walked past a Starbucks. The smell of roasted coffee was intoxicating. She instinctively reached for the door handle, then stopped. A latte was $6. That was half an hour of work at the job she didn't even have. She pulled her hand back. She kept walking. She walked for 40 minutes to save the Uber fare. By the time she got back to the motel strip, her heels had blistered her feet. She passed a "Help Wanted" sign taped to the window of a cleaning service van parked at a diner. Maids are U.S. Hiring immediately. Cash pay. No experience needed. Sarah stopped. She looked at her manicured hands. She looked at the Hugo Boss blazer. She thought of Leo eating Pop-Tarts in a room that smelled like urine. She dialed the number on the van. "Yeah," a gruff voice answered. "I'm calling about the job," Sarah said. "I can start today. You got a car?" "No, but I'm local." "Fine. Meet me at the diner in 10. We have a hoarding job in West Hartford. It's nasty. $15 an hour. Cash at the end of the day. I'll be there." The hoarding job was a nightmare. It was a house that had been swallowed by trash. Pizza boxes stacked to the ceiling, cat feces in the corners, a smell that made Sarah gag. She was given a yellow hazmat-style suit and a heavy-duty mask. Her boss, a large man named Tony, pointed to the bathroom. "Scrub it until it shines, princess. Don't puking on the floor." Sarah got on her knees. She scrubbed. She scrubbed until her shoulders burned. She scrubbed until the smell of bleach made her eyes water. This was the rock bottom. As she scraped grime off the bathtub, she thought about the dinner parties she used to host. She thought about the debates over which wine paired best with salmon. How trivial it all seemed now. How fragile. "I am cleaning another person's filth to buy my son a hamburger," she thought. But strangely, there was a rhythm to it. Scrub. Rinse. Wipe. It was tangible. Unlike her marriage, where she could never scrub away the lies, here the dirt actually disappeared. There was a result. At 5:00 p.m., Tony handed her $90 in crumpled bills. "You work hard for a skinny girl," he grunted. "Come back tomorrow at 8. We got an eviction cleanout." Sarah took the money. Her hands were raw, her nails ruined. But looking at that $90, she felt a surge of pride she hadn't felt in years. It wasn't Mark's money. It wasn't an allowance. It was hers. She walked back to the motel as the sun went down. She stopped at a grocery store and bought a rotisserie chicken, a bag of salad, and 2 chocolate bars. A feast. When she opened the motel door, the TV was blaring. Leo was sitting exactly where she left him. "Mom." He jumped up. "Where were you?" "The internet went out. I'm bored. I want to go home." He looked at her. He saw the messy hair, the red marks on her face from the mask, the smell of bleach clinging to her. "You." He wrinkled his nose. "You smell like chemicals. Did you go to the hospital?" Sarah put the chicken on the small round table. "No, Leo. I went to work. Work doing what Dad says you don't work." The words stung, but less than before. "Dad was wrong," Sarah said firmly. She tore a leg off the chicken and handed it to him. "I'm a cleaner now." Leo stared at her, horrified. The classism he had inherited from his father bubbled up. "A cleaner? Like the lady who cleans our toilets? That's for poor people." Sarah sat down. She was too tired to be gentle. She needed to break the delusion. "Leo, look at this room. Look at us. We are poor people right now." Leo's lip trembled. He threw the chicken leg onto the table. "I hate you. I want Dad. Dad has money. Dad has the pool. You ruined everything." He ran to the bathroom and slammed the flimsy door. Sarah sat alone with the cooling chicken. The silence of the room returned heavier than before. She picked up the chicken leg Leo had thrown. She took a bite. It was dry, but it tasted like survival. Her phone buzzed, not the burner. The old iPhone she had kept turned off in the bottom of her bag. She had turned it on just for a second, a moment of weakness to check if Mark had emailed. He hadn't emailed. But there was a notification from her bank app, the joint account she was locked out of. Transaction alert, jewelry store. $500. Item, diamond bracelet. He wasn't grieving. He wasn't searching for them. He was buying a gift. Sarah stared at the screen. Who was it? For his mother? No. Dolores didn't wear bracelets. A mistress. The realization didn't hurt. It clarified. The gambling, the gaslighting, the emotional distance. He had been discarding her for a long time. She had just saved him the trouble of filing the papers. She looked at the bathroom door where her son was sobbing. She picked up the $90 she had earned scrubbing toilets. She smoothed the bills out on the table. "Enjoy the bracelet, Mark," she whispered to the empty room, "because I'm coming for everything else." She took out a piece of motel stationery. She began to write. Not a diary entry. A plan. Goal $5,000 for an apartment deposit. Job cleaning day. Delivery driver night. Need to rent a car. Lawyer find pro bono legal aid. She was done being the victim. The walkaway wife was dead. The hustler was born. 2 weeks. That was how long Sarah had been living in the Starlight Motor Inn. 2 weeks of cleaning hoarding houses by day and delivering DoorDash orders in a rented Toyota Corolla by night. Her hands were unrecognizable. The French manicure was a distant memory replaced by short, jagged nails and skin dried out by industrial-strength bleach. She smelled permanently of fries and pine sol. But her mind was sharpening. At 9:00 a.m. on a Tuesday, Sarah sat in the waiting room of Hudson Legal Aid. It wasn't a sleek glass office like the ones Mark's lawyers occupied. It was in the basement of a community center in Bridgeport. The fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets. A baby was crying in the corner. A woman with a bruised eye stared at the floor. This was the trenches of the American family court system. Sarah Bennett. Sarah stood up. The lawyer, Elena Russo, didn't look like a lawyer. She looked like a tired college professor, messy bun, oversized cardigan, and eyes that held zero patience for nonsense. They sat in a cramped cubicle. Sarah laid it all out. The gambling, the foreclosure, the threats, the diamond bracelet purchase. Elena listened, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. She didn't gasp. She didn't offer pity. "Here's the reality," Sarah Elena said, her voice raspy from too much coffee and too many arguments. "You are the underdog. He has resources. You have a minimum wage cash job. In the eyes of the court right now, you look unstable. Moving a child to a motel, that's strike one." Sarah felt the panic rising. "But I had to leave." I know Elena cut her off. "I believe you, but the law doesn't care about feelings. It cares about documentation. We need to pivot. You aren't fleeing anymore. You are rebuilding." Elena leaned forward. "You said he bought a $500 bracelet?" "Yes." "I saw the alert." "Good. That's dissipation of marital assets. But we need more. We need financial forensics. Narcissists like Mark don't just lose money. They hide it. They have offshore accounts, crypto wallets, shell companies. The gambling might be a cover for siphoning funds. I can't afford a forensic accountant," Sarah said, defeated. "No." "But you can be a spy." Elena slid a paper across the desk. "This is a subpoena template. But before we file, I need you to log into every cloud account, every shared email you can remember. Look for deleted items. Look for Venmo transactions. Connect the dots." Elena paused, looking Sarah in the eye. "And most importantly, Sarah, has he tried to contact you every day?" Sarah whispered. "Emails, texts, voicemails, show me." Sarah handed over her burner phone. She had forwarded the messages. Email from Mark. "Yesterday, 11:42 p.m., baby. I'm so worried. Leo must be terrified. I'm not angry anymore. I just want my family back. I paid off the mortgage arrears. I bought you a little surprise, something shiny. Come home. Let's start over." "I love you," classic Elena muttered. "This is hoovering, like the vacuum cleaner. He's trying to suck you back in. Love bombing mixed with guilt. He paid the mortgage. Probably a lie, or he borrowed from a shark." "I feel guilty," Sarah admitted. "Leo is miserable." Maybe he's changed." Elena slammed her hand on the desk. It wasn't aggressive. It was a wake-up call. "He hasn't changed. He's rebooting the cycle. If you go back now, the abuse will escalate. He will punish you for leaving. He will lock down the finances even tighter. He will never let you leave again. So what do I do?" "You employ the gray rock method. Gray rock. Be as boring as a rock, uninteresting, unemotional, impenetrable. When you communicate about Leo, and only about Leo, you use brief factual sentences. No explanations, no apologies, no drama. You starve him of the one thing he craves, your reaction." That night, the test came. Sarah was in the motel room helping Leo with his math homework on a notepad because there was no Wi-Fi. "I don't get it." Leo threw the pencil across the room. "Dad usually helps me with this." "Your stupid mom." Sarah took a deep breath. The old Sarah would have cried. The old Sarah would have begged for forgiveness. The new Sarah, the one who scrubbed toilets for a living, picked up the pencil. "I know you're frustrated, Leo. Fractions are hard. But calling me names doesn't solve the problem. Pick up the pencil." Her voice was calm, flat, gray rock. Leo looked at her, surprised by the lack of emotional fireworks. He picked up the pencil. Then the burner phone buzzed. A call from unknown number. Mark. Sarah looked at Leo. "Put on your headphones, baby." She answered. She put it on speaker so she wouldn't have to hold the toxic device to her ear. Sarah Mark's voice. Breathless, frantic. Thank God. "Sarah, where are you? I've been going out of my mind." Sarah visualized a gray rock, a smooth river stone. Nothing sticks to it. "Mark," she said, "we are safe. Safe. You stole my son." "That's kidnapping, Sarah. I can have you arrested right now." The rage. The switch from baby to criminal took less than 10 seconds. "I have not kidnapped him," Sarah said, her voice monotone. "I have temporarily relocated for our safety. You can speak to Leo on FaceTime every night at 7 p.m. "I don't want FaceTime. I want my wife. I bought you a bracelet, Sarah. A diamond tennis bracelet. It's beautiful. Just come home. The bribe." "I am not coming home," Sarah said. "Please direct all future communication regarding our assets to my attorney Elena Russo." Silence. A long, stunned silence on the other end. He wasn't used to boundaries. He was used to open borders. Attorney Mark laughed a cold, sharp sound. "You can't afford an attorney. You can't even afford a sandwich." 7 p.m. for Leo, Sarah said. "Goodbye, Mark." She hung up. Her heart was hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird, but her hands were steady. She looked up. Leo was watching her. He had taken off his headphones. "Is Dad mad?" Leo asked, his voice small. "Dad is having big feelings," Sarah said, sitting on the floor next to him. "But that is not our job to fix anymore." Leo crawled into her lap. It was the first time in 2 weeks he had sought physical affection. He smelled like motel soap and childhood. "Mom." "Yeah, bud. You sounded different. You sounded like a teacher." Sarah smiled. A real smile. "I'm learning a new language, Leo." Once Leo was asleep, Sarah opened the laptop. She didn't go to job sites. She went to the cloud. Elena had told her to look for the digital breadcrumbs. She guessed Mark's password. It wasn't hard. It was winning is everything win. She logged into his old Gmail account, the one he claimed he never used anymore. There were thousands of emails, junk mail, sports updates, and then she saw it. A folder labeled Receipts. She clicked. It wasn't gambling receipts. It was crypto exchange confirmations. Coinbase, Binance. Transaction confirmed, $10,000 transferred to wallet X. Transaction confirmed, $15,000 transferred to wallet Y. Dates: the day after Leo's birthday, the day she asked for money to fix the boiler, the day he said business was slow. She scrolled back. 3 years. For 3 years, he had been siphoning money out of their joint accounts, claiming bills and bad investments, and funneling it into cryptocurrency. The total, she did a quick mental calculation, over $200,000. He wasn't broke. He was hiding a fortune. He was preparing for a getaway or simply hoarding power. Sarah felt a surge of adrenaline that was almost electric. This was the smoking gun. This was the leverage. She took screenshots. She downloaded PDFs. She forwarded everything to a new encrypted Proton Mail account Elena had told her to set up. As she worked, a strange sensation washed over her. The fear was evaporating. The anxiety about the future was being replaced by a cold, calculating anger. Mark thought he was playing chess with a pawn. He didn't realize the pawn had just reached the other side of the board. She closed the laptop. She walked to the window and pulled back the dirty curtain. Outside, the neon sign of the Starlight Motor Inn flickered, "No va ansi." The C was burnt out. Sarah touched her reflection in the glass. "You're not a victim," she whispered to the woman in the window. "You're a hunter." She went to her bag and pulled out the cheap drugstore notebook she used for budgeting. On a fresh page, she wrote a new list. The takedown plan. Secure the evidence done. File for emergency spousal support next. Destroy his reputation, eventually. She lay down on the lumpy mattress next to her son. For the first time in years, she didn't need a sleeping pill. She fell asleep dreaming of numbers, not credit scores, not debts, but the coordinates of crypto wallets. The healing had begun, and it tasted like revenge. 3 years later. The glass walls of the conference room overlooked the Boston skyline. It was a crisp October morning, the kind that made the leaves look like they were on fire. Sarah stood at the head of the table. She wasn't wearing the wrinkled Hugo Boss blazer anymore. She was wearing a cream-colored silk blouse and tailored trousers that fit her like a second skin. On her wrist, there was no diamond tennis bracelet from a guilty husband. There was a Cartier tank watch, a gift she had bought for herself when her company hit its first $1 million in revenue. "Okay, team," Sarah said, her voice clear and authoritative, not the shrill voice of a stressed mother, nor the whisper of a victim. "The launch for the Reclaim Your Space app is set for Monday. We're targeting single parents transitioning out of difficult living situations. We offer them organization hacks, budget templates, and mental health resources. It's not just about cleaning houses. It's about cleaning lives." Her staff nodded. They didn't look at her with pity. They looked at her with respect. Sarah Bennett was the CEO of Fresh Start Organizers, a company that had started with a bucket of bleach and a desperate ad on a diner window. Now it was a franchise across 3 states. "Great meeting. Let's get to work." As the room cleared, her assistant, a bright young woman named Chloe, poked her head in. "Sarah, there's a man here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment. He says he's your ex-husband." Sarah froze for a microsecond. The old neural pathways of fear tried to fire the elevated heart rate, the shallow breathing. But she had done the work. 3 years of therapy, 3 years of meditation, 3 years of building a fortress of self-worth. She glanced at her reflection in the glass window. She saw a survivor. "Send him in, Chloe. but give us 10 minutes. Then come in and tell me I have a call with the investors. Got it, boss." The door opened. Mark walked in. The shock was almost comical. The Mark in Sarah's nightmares was a giant, a monster who filled the room with his ego. The man standing before her was diminished. His suit was ill-fitting, hanging loose around the shoulders. His hair was thinning. The arrogant shine in his eyes was replaced by a dull, watery desperation. He looked like a balloon that had been slowly leaking air for 1,000 days. "Sarah," he said, forcing a smile. It was the old shark smile, but the teeth were yellowed. "Wow, this place is impressive." Sarah didn't stand up to shake his hand. She remained seated, leaning back comfortably. Power move. "Hello, Mark. To what do I owe the pleasure Leo is at soccer camp? So if this is about visitation schedule, you could have emailed my lawyer." Mark sat down, uninvited. He fidgeted with his cufflink, a cheap knockoff she noticed. "Come on, Sarah. Can't a guy stop by to congratulate his ex-wife? I saw the article in Forbes. From homeless to CEO. Catchy title. A little dramatic, don't you think he was still doing it? Minimizing. Trying to rewrite history." "It was accurate," Sarah said calmly. "So why are you here?" Mark sighed, leaning forward, trying to summon the old charm. "Look, Sarah, things have been rough. The crypto market crashed. You know that. And the lawyers, your shark of a lawyer really bled me dry in the settlement. Elena simply recovered the assets you tried to hide, Mark. It's called justice, not bleeding. Fine, whatever." He waved his hand dismissively. "The point is, I've been thinking. We were good together, Sarah. We were a power couple. You have the business now, I have the connections. Imagine if we teamed up, I could come on as a consultant. Help you with the financials. You know you were never good with numbers." Sarah laughed. It wasn't a bitter laugh. It was a genuine, amused laugh. "Mark, do you realize I audited your forensic accounting myself? I know numbers better than you ever did. And as for power couple..." She shook her head. "I was your hostage, not your partner." Mark's face reddened. The narcissist injury flared. "You're ungrateful. I made you. I gave you the lifestyle that allowed you to sit around and dream up this little business." Sarah stood up. She walked over to the window, looking down at the street where her car, a sleek black Audi e-tron, was parked. "You gave me nothing but anxiety and debt," she said her back to him, "and I thank you for it." Mark blinked, confused. "What?" She turned around. "I thank you. Because if you hadn't been so cruel, if you hadn't drained the accounts, if you hadn't made me feel so small, I never would have found out how big I could be. You pushed me off the cliff, Mark, but you forgot that I could fly." The door opened. Chloe stepped in. "Sarah, the investors are on the line from San Francisco." "Thank you, Chloe." Sarah looked at Mark. "You have to go." Mark stood up, looking around the room, realizing there was no foothold for him here, no emotional hook, no guilt button to press. He was dealing with a gray rock that had turned into a diamond. "I miss the kids," he mumbled, playing the victim card one last time. "Leo waits for you every other weekend, Mark. Try actually showing up on time instead of canceling at the last minute. Goodbye." He walked out. Shoulders slumped. Defeated not by screaming, but by indifference. Sarah walked out of the building an hour later. The air smelled of roasted chestnuts and victory. A man was leaning against her car. He wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing a flannel shirt and jeans, holding 2 cups of coffee. David. He was a pediatric nurse she had met when Leo broke his arm a year ago. He wasn't rich. He wasn't flashy. He drove a Subaru. But he listened. He remembered her favorite coffee order. And he loved Leo. "Hey," David smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Safe eyes. "How was the meeting with the ghost of Christmas past? Sarah took the coffee? He wanted a job." David laughed. "You're kidding." "Did you hire him as the office janitor?" "I have too much respect for my janitors," Sarah quipped. They got into the car. David didn't try to drive. He respected that this was her car, her domain. "Leo aced his math test today," David said as they merged into traffic. "He wanted me to tell you first. He's really proud." "He did." Sarah felt a lump in her throat. The boy who used to scream that she was stupid was now thriving. He was in therapy, too. They were healing together. They pulled up to a beautiful, modest colonial house, smaller than the one she shared with Mark, but warm. There were pumpkins on the porch, a wreath that she had made herself. Inside the house smelled of pot roast in the slow cooker, because she was a busy CEO. Leo ran down the stairs. "Mom did." "David tell you I got an A?" Sarah dropped her bag and caught her son in her arms. He was heavy now, solid and happy. "I heard. I am so proud of you." "Dad texted me," Leo said, pulling back. "He said he saw you. He said you looked cold." Sarah smiled. She kissed her son's forehead. "I'm not cold, baby. I'm just cool." Later that night, after Leo was asleep and David was reading in bed, Sarah went out to her backyard. She had a fire pit now. She lit a small fire. She reached into her pocket. She pulled out a small crumpled piece of paper she had kept in her wallet for 3 years. It was the receipt from the pawn shop, the $2,000 for her engagement ring. She looked at it one last time. That $2,000 had bought them food. It had bought the cleaning supplies. It had bought her freedom. She tossed the paper into the fire. It curled, blackened, and turned to ash, floating up into the night sky like sparks. Sarah took a deep breath of the crisp autumn air. She wasn't just a walkaway wife anymore. She wasn't a victim. She wasn't even a survivor. She was Sarah. And for the first time in her life, that was enough.